Maya, great to see you again. Welcome back to Pop Alternative as always.
Thanks so much for having me.
You know, it's crazy because I remember when you were like, it was announced that you were cast for Murder in a Small Town on Fox, and I was like, oh my goodness. And eventually we were going to talk about it, and here we are talking about it.
Here we are. I know. And now it's slowly coming out. It's so exciting.
I mean, like you look at, Walter Boy's this show, Yellow Jackets, I want to know what is that kind of mentality with something like this that's in the crime kind of world and in the kind of whodunit world. What is your mindset preparation wise for the audition, going to film it? Like, what's that like for you specifically?
Totally. When I got the audition for Edwina, I was not at all expecting to get it. I saw the breakdown and I was like, oh, this feels really far from anything I've done. I don't know if I can pull it off, but I'm gonna go for it. And I did the audition. I had so much fun. I was like, oh, this is so cool. This is a totally different character that I'm stepping into, someone who's older, more mature in this professional career,
Mhm.
which I loved. And then I got a call back and I went and did it in person and it felt amazing. And I was like, okay, this doesn't feel as far away as I thought it could be.
Yeah.
Uh, Definitely so different from any prep that I did for Walter Boys or Yellow Jackets. And
Yeah.
I definitely had to bring in like the physicality a lot more, how I carry myself, how I speak. There's a lot more, jargon, police jargon going on. It's a procedural, it moves very, very fast. So it was something to adjust to, just in terms of learning lines and working long hours and working many, many days. It was a big adjustment, but when I finished the project, I felt so proud and so grateful that I had that opportunity because I came out honestly like a better actor
Oh,
because of
100%. I find it
yeah.
really interesting too because it's like there's like the traditional way shows come out and then the non-traditional way they all drop at once. And like you did Yellow Jackets was the traditional week to week. Then you took a
Yeah.
break from that, did Walter Boys, they all drop, and now you're back to the week to week Myrtle in the Small Town like releases, right?
I know it's crazy. And even I'm like every week, I'm like, okay, like what's gonna happen? We're gonna watch it and see. And yeah, it's been so exciting getting to watch it here in Calgary too with some of my best friends and just enjoying it as a group.
Well, you're in Calgary doing a thing right now. I forgot. Um, yeah. Well, it's interesting too, and I'm wondering. I feel like as an actor, you try not to do this, but especially with what you said about what happens in each episode, and like those dinner table conversations that people have after watching one episode, they have to wait for the next episode, and they're like, "What's gonna happen? Who did it?" and stuff like that. Are you ever conscious of the audience member watching the show while you're making it, or does that kind of happen afterwards?
Um, oh, good question. I think it comes across my mind, but I think with just how quick things move,
Mhm.
especially on Murder in a Small Town, I couldn't even really add that. I couldn't add that to my day of like trying to think about that. When I'd read the script, I'd for sure try to read it from the perspective of an audience.
Yeah.
And of course, as you're filming, things change. Scenes get changed, scenes get cut,
Mhm.
new things get added. So at some points, like even watching the show, there's so many things I'm seeing for the first time. So I enjoy watching it from a perspective of an audience member, but I try not to think too much about it
The
while I
life of
shoot.
an actor is that kind of on to the next, and you work on a project, then you go on another project. You look at the projects that you worked on, and obviously, Mya Lowe goes where the opportunities are, and like you work on all these different shows, different worlds. Is it cool to think about that you've kind of worked in a lot of cool, like sweet spots where you worked on Yellow Jackets that had kind of the horror, kind of thrillers like component, and then you
Mhm.
work on something like Walter Boys that has kind of the drama coming of age rom com, and now you're working on this Murder in a
Yeah.
Small Town that has like the crime component. Like those are all hot, like genres right now. Do you think about that at all? It's pretty crazy.
It's something I've discussed definitely with like my actor friends of like such a large spectrum of shows and genres. And it's really nice to be able to kind of hit different ones and see what interests you more, what you enjoy doing the most. And I've been really lucky to have three really cool, very different projects that have challenged me in so many different ways.
Yeah.
So it's definitely something I think about and I reflect on, but it makes me feel more confident as an actor at the end of the day that I can step into things like being Edwina versus being Kylie and Walter Boys. They're so different.
Absolutely. You mentioned procedural show, Fox, Murder in a Small Town. What's the pace like? What was the pace like, at least for your stuff, filming that show compared to like other shows you've done in the past? Was it similar? Was it different? Like what was that like for you?
Oh, it was quick. It's fast. It's so fast. And it's like you'll notice in the show, I mean, we're all relaying so much information to each other all the time. Like that's how you're building a story, especially in procedurals that move fast and you're solving a murder in one episode.
Yeah.
So it's a lot of lines. It's a lot of speaking in a way that I'm not used to. So there was definitely like a learning curve going into it where I was like, damn, it's actually pretty hard to learn all this and say it in a way that still feels authentic and natural. And then over time you create a rhythm and you find your place in it. But
Yep.
it was definitely a learning curve.
Absolutely. Are you starting to get kind of interested in like seeing what the fans are saying about like the theories every week? Like, that's a pretty crazy thing too, right? If you think about it.
Yeah, totally. I mean, yeah, I mean, the nice thing about the show is that you do kind of get an answer every episode for the most part. But it is so cool to like watch people live tweet and share their opinions of what they think is happening because yes, it's a who done it, but it's also like a why done it and how done it. So sometimes the murderer is
Mm,
revealed early on and
yeah.
you know as an audience member, and that's on purpose. But there's so many other layers just especially in episode one, it's like, why did that happen? What happened in the past to make
Mhm.
this happen now? And that's what, I think is so intriguing about the show. It's not just okay, who is it? It's way more than that.
100%. I feel like that's like the biggest challenge from a writing perspective when I always think about like horror movies too. It's like, how do you write a movie that's so well done where you know who the killer is the whole time, but it's still effective where you're trying to make people guess. You know what I mean?
And so people don't lose interest either because
Yes.
it's already solved, right? Yeah, it's definitely
I think the
difficult.
best thing too is when there's a movie, like there's a few movies out there where like it's a who done it and like the red herring, the person that you suspect is actually the killer, but it's done properly. I feel like that's really rare too. I've seen a few movies like that.
Yes, it's a really hard line to balance on, but yeah, absolutely.
It is spooky season and there's a lot of horror movie content coming out. Do you think about the fact that you have done a lot recently in that kind of world, but like you're now kind of also diving into other worlds, but like, you look at Dead Boy Detectives, you look at Yellow Jackets. I mean, that's kind of like that's the stuff that gets like watched this time of year, right? Like, do you think about that at all?
Yeah, yeah, totally. I mean, I'm the worst with horror movies. I will watch them. I can't go to theaters. I won't watch them in theaters, but depending on if it's gory or not, I'll watch it. And like definitely with Yellow Jackets, I mean, there were some episodes I struggled with just because of like the gore. And even though it's all fake and I see the process of it in front of me, even watching back on the show and seeing the episodes, it still gets me and it makes me uncomfortable. So it's definitely something that intrigues me and I think about it a lot. But I also think it'd be so cool to be in a horror movie and do that genre
Oh,
fully.
wait, it's gonna happen. It's not a matter of if it's gonna happen. It's it's a matter of
Fingers
when.
crossed. I just have to get past my blood thing and then
No, it's
I'll
gonna it's gonna happen for sure. You're in Calgary filming season 2 of My Life with the Walter Boys. I mean it's out there, like people know, like people can also clue in as well. I mean,
yeah.
it's funny because it's like if you do interviews like this for Murder in a Small Town, people are gonna ask you about Walter Boys, and like all you could see, I think you could be like, well, all I can say is that I'm in it. Like my character is back. Like you will see.
Yeah, yeah, there's so much. I mean, and now we've been here for like almost 3 months, so I feel so comfortable in it. But I have to remember that there's like a lot of things I can't say, or a lot of little hints you can't really give. But it's gonna be a good season,
How
guys.
cool is it to be back with everyone though? Must have been like the
Oh,
best
so
feeling.
I'm living with Ellie right now, and we're having like the best time. We're hanging out with the cast a ton and just finding times to be together. And Calgary is gorgeous. Like I've totally fallen in love with the city
Mhm.
and the people in it. So I've had a really awesome time here.
Absolutely. And like I said, it's like, it's kind of funny too, because when did you start realizing? I feel like it was like when you found out that season 2 was coming out, and then you didn't like get scripts or anything, and everyone just assumed that everyone knew what was going on. And it's like, you didn't even know what was going on, right? Like,
Oh, we've been theorizing just like on Yellow Jackets. We've been theorizing since we wrapped first
oh,
season.
Yellow Jackets for sure. You guys got those
Yeah.
scripts late. I
Yeah.
remember.
And it's kind of the same deal on this. We're all kind of sitting on set, like chatting about like, okay, so why do you think that's happening? Or like what's going on here? But you never know until you get a script. And yeah, when we all moved here and got settled in, we still didn't really know what was going to happen with any of us, and it's definitely taken some really cool turns.
What, whether you've been on a set one time or thousands of times, you're always going to learn something new. I just want to know, in regards to, like you mentioned, like it was quick, Murder in a Small Town. Like, what were some learning experiences from an acting storyteller perspective, specifically with like that show, that you'll be able to take for future projects as well?
Absolutely. I mean, I got to work with a cast of like so many vets. And that in itself, I mean, getting to watch how they work, how they memorize their lines, sometimes day of, because when you're a lead on something, you're constantly learning new things. You can't go and prep for days. So even watching how Rossif and Kristen work, how Aaron works, especially, I worked really closely with Aaron Douglas. He can learn his scene and blocking if he wanted to. He's so talented. And that was something that I kind of picked up on, was you don't have to put too much pressure on yourself for the little things. I think as long as you know who your character is, the words will come. And I definitely feel way more confident now walking onto set and learning something new day of, or just kind of working with new material. I'm not as intimidated by it now, which is really nice.
No, absolutely. And of course, episodes of Murder in a Small Town are dropping on Fox, so they could check that out. And we'll get season 2 of My Life with the Walter Boys when we get season 2 of My Life with the Walter Boys. I don't know what else to say about that. But
I know. It's a mystery.
Mya, as always, thank you so much for coming back on the show. It's really great catching up with you.
Well, thank you so much for having me. I always love chatting with you, Peter.
Instagram, best way for people to keep up to date with everything, just Mya Lowe, correct?
Yes.
Awesome. Well, this has been Popternative, youtube.com/Popternative for previous episodes. Until next time, it's Mya Lowe and Peter Beats signing off.
Thank you for tuning in to Popternative. Make sure to check out our past episodes of Popternative on YouTube.
This has been an Autograph Communications production.